Here at World Gone Good, not everything makes the final episode, and that's how we end up with this, the bonus content, where shit gets real, people. Here's more of my conversation with my friend and author, Eric Poole, that landed on the cutting room floor. You know, growing up, if we can get a little personal, you were like me. Where you and I share something in common. Both were, little gay boys in a time when that was not an open thing to be.
Oh, for sure.
And then on top of that, you had, and you still have, if you're willing to talk about it, a hearing disability.
Yeah, I was born deaf in one ear, which does not make life easy when you're a kid. And when you have all these things where it's like you feel different because on some tiny little level within yourself that you're gay, and then this hearing thing, which it's fine if you're on my left side, but if you're on my right side, all bets are off.
Right.
And it just opens the door to all kinds of teasing. So yeah, it's a rough thing to kind of deal with, but I mean, it's not the end of the world. Jane Lynch. There are a lot of celebrities that have it too, and you manage to make your way through the world just fine. But it has its moments, that's for sure.
Do you did you go inside yourself when you were young, or did you do the opposite and become extroverted from it?
Well, it's kind of a weird combo of the two. It's like I was desperate to be noticed, but then I was terrified of it. You know what I mean? It's like, I think that's why I became a writer, because it was a way to be noticed without having to sort of put too much of yourself out there. When I was in high school and college, I was trying all kinds of things. I played the trumpet, and I was actually quite good, if I can pat myself on the back. And if I had stuck with it, I probably could have made a real career out of it. But and then I tried, all kinds of things. I was an actor in college. I wanted to get into musical theater. I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer. There were all these things. And I always say I had just enough talent to get myself to the middle on most of these things. You know what I mean? And it was the writing that finally took over, and that's what kind of stuck and became something where I'd like, hey, I can make a life out of this. And ironically, I didn't make a life out of the books. The books came later. I made a life out of advertising, just like you did.
Right.
And it's been a great life. And I doubt. You tell me, do you regret having gone down this path?
Oh, no. You mean professionally?
Yeah.
This path came to me. I came to LA wanting to be a writer, right? I wanted to be in a writer's room, and I had some successes. I was a writer's assistant intern on Days of Our Lives. I was on two different writing teams for MTV. I wrote the show Singled Out, if anyone remembers that, and Jenny McCarthy was on that. And then I spun off and wrote her Jenny McCarthy. She had it was called the Jenny McCarthy Show, where Jenny McCarthy, she had a sketch show, and I was on that writing team. But then my career dried up, and I started doing plays. I started writing these one-act comedies and sending them around. And I got a call out of the blue from the WB network saying, we'd like to meet with you. They just happened to be at one of my plays that I was part of a night of one-acts. And they saw my writing, and I got a job offer for 6 weeks that became a career that I've been doing 22 years now.
Wow.
But they took a chance on me, and that's, that's the amazing thing. Talking about writing, do you remember the first story you wrote?
I started out when I was like in middle school or early junior high, just like writing insult notes to the girls in class and passing them over to them. Your boobs are so big you could keep 18 sailors afloat in a tidal wave. That kind of stupid, stuff. And then in college, I wrote a humor column for the newspaper, and then I went to work while I was in college for a travel agency, this big corporate travel agency with like 100 employees, and I wrote a humor column for them as well. And from that, it led me to an ad agency job. And this is all in St. Louis as I'm finishing college and stuff. And I worked in that ad agency for 3 years. And that was great, because there's a lot of creativity, if you, especially in a smaller agency like this, that was like, 80 people or something. And you got to do everything, And so there was a lot of creativity in that. early on, but I had always wanted to write for television, I think, like you know, and so a friend of mine said, let's write a spec script for the Golden Girls. So we did. And through a friend of his, we got it to Christopher Lloyd, who was one of the producers on the show at the time. He later co-created Modern Family. And he was kind enough to go through the whole script and check all the jokes he liked, and was very encouraging. And we're like, woo, Hollywood's waiting, you know. So he was a lawyer, and so he got a job in a law firm in LA, and I moved out without a job, but a promise of some freelance from this production company, and commercial production company. And I ended up working for them for 3 years, and it's a kind of a long and convoluted story as to what happened. But we also had some early success, like you did. Like we got our first agent was Ari Emanuel, who's now the head of WME, and we got into the Warner Brothers Sitcom Writers Workshop and all this. And so there was some really good early stuff, and then it all just fell apart. My writing partner got into drugs, and he became kind of a crystal meth head, and things went south very quickly. And suddenly I was, you know, I didn't know what to do, you know, because he had been my partner this whole time, and I felt kind of lost, and, you know. And then I offered the transom to script to Tracy Ullman, who had that series Tracy Takes On at HBO back then. Right. And just totally, I had no agent at that point. And it just went, they told me later, it went on this stack that sat in the conference room in the corner. And one night, her husband, who was the executive producer, Alan, he went over and picked up the top script, and he liked it, and he brought it home to Tracy, and she read it that night. And they called me the next day and had me come in for a meeting, and they were so complimentary, and it was so sweet, and it like completely bolstered me up again. Like, you know, maybe I can do this. They didn't have any position.
And you got to meet Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
And to be sitting with her, who I have such admiration for, at a table, and she's telling me how great she thinks I am. It was just sort of surreal. But anyway, you know, I've had a lot of those stops and starts in my career. You had a lot more, like, seemingly straight ahead, boom, you know.
Yeah, and then it all fell to shit, and
as it does here,
as it does, right? And then I had 3 very difficult years, 2.5 very, very, very difficult years. So many phone calls from my parents saying, "Come on back home," and my dad saying, "We'll get you your old job back at Ace Hardware that you had when you were 17."
Right.
Thanks for listening. We'll talk more soon. Until then, be good.